We aren't, right?
Waiting for YouTube.
All right, welcome to the October 19th, 2022 North Logan City Council meeting. We will begin today's meeting. It looks like we have a full panel. We'll begin today's meeting with a pledge led by Buzzy, after which Roger will give us the opening prayer.
Will the audience please rise and repeat after me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Father, we're grateful for this evening we can meet together as a community in North Logan and the City Council. Grateful for the agenda before us. Ask that we may have good discussions and presentations, that those presentings will be blessed. And we're grateful for the beautiful valley we live in, grateful for this beautiful fall time of year and for the freedoms that we have. Grateful for those that serve our country, that made this possible. These things that Jesus Christ. Amen.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight or adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Buzzy,
Second.
second by Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion, oh, any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. We have a lot of minutes to approve today. I would entertain a motion to approve those in mass. Huh?
So-
8 sets.
Move to adopt all 8 sets of the minutes.
Okay, motion by Craig,
I'll second.
second by Joni. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Alan, any follow-up on issues from previous meetings?
No, if it's okay, you could just go through the action items. I can jump through several that we won't discuss later in the meeting. Like the Civic Center, just a quick update on that. We are getting the final bids from the subcontractors for the city offices. Then we'll finalize the Civic Center, the community center designs. Garbage RFP, the interlocal entity is probably nearing completion to be formed, and then they'll resubmit the RFP shortly after that. Jumping down through here, though, water, we'll go over this later in the meeting. There's several things that we'll update regarding the capital improvement plans. Sewer, this next week, we will apply for the loan from the Department of Environmental Quality. And they're going around fixing several spots throughout the city. Streets, they're still doing the major project on 1700 East. That's Green Canyon Cove. That's going along probably about as smooth as we can imagine. It's a very difficult process, long process to go through that, and the residents have been very helpful in that regard. And the streets department is doing a great job of working with the contractor there. Jumping down through here, stormwater, some of the major storm events recently have brought up some issues within our system. It seems like we're supposed to have a 100-year event every 100 years. We've had like 3 in the past 2 years. So looking at different areas and sprucing up those stormwater requirements and those kind of subdivisions that have been around for several years. Engineering, we'll talk about several water related items and along with Cane Gate subdivision, some things that they're working on there later in the meeting. Parks, the pickleball courts were completed this week. It's been a long task for the Parks Department, but hats off to them. They couldn't look any better right now. It was a fantastic grand opening this week. I don't want to steal the mayor's fire if you want to go over any of these items more in detail, but it was a
Like just the win-loss records or?
Maybe we won't let you comment, but but earlier this week they did have the grand opening. The courts have been full ever since then. So hats off to the Parks Department for putting that together. And thanks to everyone who came and attended that grand opening. That was fantastic. Jumping down through here, trails, we will meet with the new trails coordinator in the coming weeks for the county and start pushing some of our trails ahead. that we've been working on. Recreation, they do have signups going on soon for basketball. Wolfpack basketball is coming up. Flag football, the tournament's taking place this week. They do have the carnival. We'll go over that a little bit later, where they decorate cars down at Green Canyon High on October 29th. And then this week, just a couple other rec events is the pumpkin toss. That's this Saturday, where the students from USU and ASME put together catapults and trebuchets, and they launch them at Elkridge Park. That's this Saturday at 11 a.m. I guess that means I'm about done. So I'll just jump through a few more items here. There is, facilities, they'll be wrapping up some of the restrooms. They're doing several construction projects, wrap up the end of the year. Cemetery, will go over a few things tonight. Community development. They're looking at a few things relating to the signage ordinance, changing some code items that will come before the city council in 2 weeks. Related to where government buildings can be located. Apparently, there's an oversight that we need to correct that Scott luckily has caught, and we need to move ahead in that regard. Economic development, there's several things taking place right now. The finalization of our CRA is taking place. The interlocal agreements were signed, and Scott is working on our annual report for that. And then they're working with several local businesses as well. Treasurer, between the treasurer, AP business license, and recorder, they have been absolutely slammed the last few weeks, and human resources doing the annual audit. And that has been completed. And then in the next few weeks, it'll come before the city council. So hats off to each of those departments for all of their hard work. I don't mean to skim over that very quickly, but they put endless amount of time into that. Library will have their Harry Potter party this Friday. It's actually at 5 p.m., I believe, 5 to 8 p.m. Here at the library. Police were working together on some parking. The new construction will actually affect a few things regarding access for the police buildings. So we need to coordinate that. And then nuisance properties and code enforcement we're working on together. And then the fire department this past week, they had their grand opening on their station 70, which is the main downtown station on 2nd North and about 100 East.
Not grand opening.
Groundbreaking, grand opening of the ground for putting the fire station there. All it will do is just absolutely increase and improve an already stellar fire department and their response and their ability to provide the services to multiple cities, including Logan. So it's an exciting time for the fire department there.
Great. Any questions from the council? All right, we'll move on to recognition of exemplary staff members. Tonight, Jesse Howe nominated Ryan Campbell, Jeremy Stedman, Will Stedman, Trevor Max Stedman, Mackenzie Lunt from the Parks. Oh, let's see. Yeah, from the Parks Department. Jesse says, the Parks crew, Ryan Campbell, Jeremy Stedman, Will Stedman, oops, we read those, have worked many nights before and after the Pumpkin Walk event this year to make sure everything went incredibly smoothly. They all worked countless hours, including having to fix many issues, no matter how late in the evening it went. You can tell they take pride in their work because no matter how many late nights they worked, they still managed to wake up early and take care of the parks. They do so much for the community and do not get thanked nearly enough for a job well done. And then Ryan added, the crew put in a ton of extra time and effort for this event. Setting up is one thing, but they also had a ton of cleanup. Jeremy, Will, Trevor, and Mackenzie all went above and beyond for this event. And then we do have a picture of their scene, which is spectacular. So let's give them a round of applause. And I will add my thanks to that. That event is huge. I don't do we have a count of how many people attended this year? I know it's been 60,000 in the past.
Usually around 50 to 60,000 this year. I would anticipate that we had probably the most that have ever attended because they went a week earlier and the weather just seemed to absolutely cooperate perfectly for the event.
Yeah, so hats off to the Parks Department and for the police department, everyone who made that run smoothly. All right, we will move on to recognition of North Logan photo contest winners. But Michelle Dodson will be staying here the whole time, right? Okay. Hold on. I believe we will start with third place. So that is Michelle Dodson. If you want to come up and get your prize. And actually, we'll just kind of, that is beautiful. We'll call up here Adrian Welsh, who got second place. And then Millie Lewis, who got first place.
Oh.
Yeah, let's give him a hand of applause. We really appreciate you guys for submitting pictures this year. I know that we kind of announced this with the contest, but we will be using photos of our city in our promotional materials on our website. And it's extra cool to have our citizens take those pictures. So we really appreciate it.
Can you just go through those one more time, Alan? Is that-
So this is third place, so bronze medal to Michelle. This is
Yeah.
way up on the bench. You can get up there.
Nice.
Cool.
This is at the mouth of Green Canyon. Over there, you can recognize where it's at from Adrian. And this is number one. This is right outside the window looking at the police station, looking east with somehow magically two rainbows. I hope
I
that wasn't
know.
photoshopped in there.
Yeah.
Double rainbow. All right, well, thank you guys. Now we'll have a CAPSA presentation regarding Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is this month from Alina. And are you going to include Brooks and? No, okay, Alina. Thank you.
I'm going to try not to stress that my older of the two is going to hurt the younger of the two. We really appreciate you guys letting us come do this in April and October. I wanted to just share kind of a few things. So as we have looked at our numbers and thought about the problems of domestic violence that face our communities, something that we've thought a lot about is kind of our foundation and how we got started. So for those of you who don't know, CAPSA was actually started in 1976 up on USU's campus. So we made it 1 minute. There were a few high profile rape cases up on campus. And so a team of volunteers of these individual friends and family of these individuals decided that they needed to form a crisis line to be able to reach and support these survivors. And so one of those volunteers, her name is Jenny Box. And she started this team and quickly realized that just having this crisis line wasn't going to be enough to be able to reach all survivors. Law enforcement started using this team for domestic violence to be able to take care of these families who are experiencing this harm. And so Jenny came home to her husband Thad one day and said, we need to be able to shelter these families. And so we're going to do this in our home. And he was like, all right. And if you talk to him now, he'll say that he doesn't learn quickly, but he learned really fast that domestic violence was a problem in our communities because that first week they had 3 families brought to their home. And so our foundation really started in community caring, and we're seeing that is still really evident today. Every month we hold a lunch at CAPSA and we talk about some of the things that we're working on and successes we are having. And at one of our recent meetings, we had someone who was there ask, what would the community be like without CAPSA? And we had law enforcement in attendance. And so we pointed the question to them and we said, what would our communities look like without CAPSA? And it was interesting. He said, well, I don't know a community without CAPSA, but it would look really different. And so I wanted to just share a few statistics from North Logan in specific to kind of explain what your community may look like without CAPSA and without individuals being able to receive support when they're experiencing domestic violence, remembering that domestic violence affects, it doesn't choose a gender, it doesn't choose a race, it affects all people. So I'll start with 2021, and we work in fiscal year. So in 2021, we received 1,158 crisis calls from North Logan City. That's 165 unduplicated clients that we were able to serve with a total number of service records, which includes therapy, casework, all of those appointments, we had 5,499 service records. I'm happy to report that those numbers have decreased in 2022, which is always exciting. We would like to see these numbers decreasing more rapidly than they are. But in 2022, so that fiscal year runs 21 to 22, but we answered 730 crisis calls from North Logan City, serving 177 unduplicated clients for a total number of service records of 2,817. So you'll notice those numbers all decreased by almost half, which is awesome. And so I can't tell you why that happened, but I can tell you that it matters to survivors that community supports. Yeah. And so this month, we're just asking communities to stand for someone, whether that's someone within your work environment or your home or your kids' classmates or whoever it may be, that if you notice things don't seem right, that you're willing to stand for them and to say something and to refer them to resources. And so I brought a poster for you guys to hang in a place that's visible, that just says stand for someone, as well as I brought all of you a purple ribbon. And so you can distribute these to whoever, and we have plenty more back at CAPSA if you need more. So that's my invitation to you, and I will leave these with you to distribute.
Thank you so much. Alina, I hope you'll take back our thanks to CAPSA for the work that you do in our city, and we just really appreciate the work that you do. Okay, we will move on to a presentation from Dr. Courtney Flint from Utah State regarding the results of our recent Utah Wellbeing Survey conducted in cities across the state. Courtney, thanks for coming here.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me. Alan, if you could just put the slides up would be great. Thank you. So I'm really pleased to be with you tonight. North Logan has been a fantastic partner on the Utah Wellbeing Project back till 2019. And so it's been a really fantastic relationship. We conduct surveys throughout the state on well-being. If you can change to the next slide. We're really up and down the state, left and right, up and down. Our goals are really to provide the city leaders in Utah towns and cities with information about their residents' well-being, how they feel their lives are, and the other local perspectives on issues that affect the community, and to provide that for general decision-making and for planning processes. We of course also have a research component. So we're looking at to be able to compare well-being across cities, within cities, and we are increasingly bridging our efforts with those by the various state agencies, the Huntsman Cancer Institute, Get Healthy Utah. And so there's a lot happening that your data is contributing to at a state level. So the well-being website, all of the reports for 2022 are up there as well as past years. So I urge you to just Google USU Utah Wellbeing Project, and you can take a look at any other reports you're interested in. We do this survey online using Qualtrics. It's a no-cost partnership for you as a city partner. We just ask that the cities that partner with us take care of the advertising and the recruitment because we feel that you know best how to reach your residents and get them to participate in the survey. You've done a great job this year, 299 surveys, which is much higher than previous years. So really excited about that increased participation. We do ask a fair few demographic questions because it's very important to the analysis, and we try to be very transparent about who we hear from and who we don't, so that you understand the context of the data. So for North Logan, 98% of the respondents are full-time residents. Average length of residence was about 15 years. About 30% had lived here for 5 years or less. So we are picking up some of those newcomers in the survey as well as longtime residents. The survey does underrepresent some groups. Men just are not as willing to take these online surveys as women are. We also miss those that some of those who don't have a college degree, those who are unmarried, those who rent their homes, those in the youngest adult age bracket, and those with the lowest, very lowest income levels. They're there in the survey, but they're just not quite at the representative level that the census tells us they are in their community. And so if we just dive right into the results, Personal well-being in North Logan is nice and high. It's an average of a 4.15 on a scale of 1 to 5, and 79% said a 4 or a 5 on that 5-point scale. You're above average as we look not only at all the communities, but specifically also those rapid growth cities. We use the clusters from the Utah League of Cities and Towns, and you definitely fall within that rapid growth area, but definitely higher well-being for personal well-being than average. And then if we go to the next slide, you can see that the community well-being is a little bit lower on average, but it's still compared to the personal well-being, but it is still well above average for North Logan. So you're really on that high end of those communities around the state that we work with. We have looked at this over time. And while the personal well-being is the same as it was last year, of course, note that that's very high. 4.15 out of 5 is really on average. It's a very high score. So the fact that you're flat there shouldn't, I think, be illustrative of any alarm, because it is a very high number compared to the rest of the state. But your community well-being number has totally bounced back from those that sort of COVID days and where we were all struggling a bit over the last couple of years. So really nice to see that community well-being figure bounce back. Not all cities are seeing that particular figure increase. So I'm really pleased to see that for North Logan. The other thing we do is we ask about different categories of well-being, or what we call domains. And we ask people to rate their well-being in these 10 different categories, and also tell us how important those categories are for their well-being. It allows us to put together this matrix here. And what you can see there is that physical and mental health, actually, I try to click and see if these things will animations. That's great. So we have the highest rated domains are living standards, safety, security, and education. Those are the things that people say are just going great. And then if you click again, the most important categories are those 3 plus mental and physical health. But mental and physical health fall into the red zone. Those things that are more important but lower than average in terms of rating. Now you're very close to that, average line. So they're not deeply in the red zone as you actually have been in some years past. So we are seeing some improvement here, but those are areas that perhaps residents, and this is common around the state, that they're suggesting they want to improve in terms of their lives. But then we've got the red zone there. I think will pop up, and then we can move to the next slide. And if we look at how these things are changing over time, it's very exciting to see that we're seeing a bounce back or even an increase from those COVID years for everything. Connection with safety and security, education, mental health, leisure time, connection with nature, physical health, social connections, and cultural opportunities, all increasing. That's fabulous. The 2 things that are just very so slightly declining from last year are living standards and local environmental quality. Next slide. We also ask about sort of perceived community action. We're asking, to what degree do people take action together in response to local problems or opportunities? And North Logan is really quite on the high end compared to a lot of the other rapid growth cities there. So really sitting quite fine at, I think that's a 45 or 40, can't see, 47%. Of folks saying a 4 or a 5 on this scale, which is really quite good. You've got a skewed graph to the right there, and so really looking quite fine. And the next slide shows community connection. How connected do you feel to North Logan as a community? And North Logan is even higher here, so that is fantastic. The community connection we found to be a very influential variable, and it's great to see those numbers so high here for North Logan compared to other cities. We found it to be influential for overall well-being. The people who have the highest levels of community connection have the highest levels of personal well-being. And so that finding across the cities in Utah has been pretty striking. And so it led us to create some resources that we provide on our website, not only for community connection and how cities can address that. It's not a bunch of academic resources. It's really some practical things that cities can use to build that sense of well-being or that sense of community connection and belonging. And we've added other categories too on some of these other issues: connection with nature, environmental quality, safety and security, mental and physical health, living standards, and substance abuse. So I hope you find those resources useful. The other thing we've done is look at this year, participation in recreation and nature-based activities. This is a new question this year. You've got lots and lots of folks who enjoy the wildlife and birds. They love to recreate in your parks. And they do enjoy non-motorized recreation on public lands and waters and gardening. Those are really the top four. And a number of things are positively and significantly correlated with personal or community well-being and community connection. And so you're highlighting those city recreation programs. That's really a strong factor in improving the community well-being and the sense of community connection. So that's really having good results there. Even just walking a pet in the city has statistically been shown to increase the sense of that the community is doing well. So people getting out and getting some time in the fresh air with their pet is an important thing here, as well as all the other things that are here. And then we have always asked about this question about landscapes. We might not keep asking it because we always get the same sort of results. People love natural landscapes. So off the charts here with the mountains, the rivers and the streams, and city parks for you guys is really, really high. That's fantastic. Trails, the farmland, lakes, all very, very high in contributing to well-being. When we get into those more human-dominated landscapes, we get a wider array of responses. So there's mixed opinions about these things, development and industry. And it just gives you a sense of how people feel about the changing landscapes around them. We do ask about how people feel about growth. We ask about how they would describe the current rate of population growth in North Logan. And 74% said too fast. And if you click again, I think we've got a little more data. It's definitely gone up over the years. So, it was 66 in 2020, dipped down in 2021, but bounced way up to 74% saying too fast. In terms of economic development, it's a little bit more balanced, but we still have 42% saying it's on the high side, but 37% saying it's just right. And if you click a couple of times, I think you'll get those figures. There we go. So that's definitely going from about 20% in previous years up to 42. We've doubled the percentage of people who are saying even economic growth is on the high side here. Of course, we don't know quite what that means, but we could dive into that for future work. All right, next slide. And this is really just showing where North Logan fits on these questions with regard to the rest of the state. And you can look at that in the report at more depth. It's kind of hard to see. And then we talk about various concerns. What are the top sort of concerns as the people look to the future of North Logan? Water supply, very, very high across the state, has really jumped up at least 10 percentage points every year for the last 4 years. It's just skyrocketed to the top of people's concern list, along with affordable housing, air quality, and roads and transportation are really on the high end there. But you can see lots of other issues. There's plenty of folks, over half the respondents for many of those things, sort of saying that there are some other major or moderate concerns for the future of the city, things to take into consideration. And then the next slide, please. We asked a couple of specific questions for you with regard to amenities. And there was, and interestingly, about 51% of respondents said that they weren't aware about your new building efforts in terms of a city office, community center, and library expansion. So at least through the survey, they learned about that effort. So we've done a little communication effort there. 44% indicated the new library will improve their well-being. That's a great high proportion. 31% indicated the community center with facilities will improve their well-being. And those are sizable bunches of people from the survey who are really looking forward to these things. And so we've also got how do these things contribute to their well-being? 83% said your city parks are really a 4 or 5 on that 5-point scale. The current library facility, 73%, and the recreation program by nearly half of the respondents. This is really exciting numbers for you, I think. We did, at your request, ask about the public safety efforts, such as police and fire, and that it is the largest budget item. And how do you feel this contributes to your overall well-being? And we certainly see there that you've got 77% indicating that it's very high in terms of contributing. They value, and we know that from the matrix that I showed you before, that safety and security is something that is very important to them and that they rate quite high here. So they very much appreciate it. We asked about the trails that people use, and you can see that the 31% use the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, And about a quarter of the folks use the asphalt path adjacent to the main roads or the canal trails. And so you've got a quarter of the people responding using those things. And then we ask what people value about living and working in North Logan. They love the sense of community. They love being close to nature here. So many people comment about how beautiful it is. They just love the scenery here. The opportunities for recreation, very appreciated. And they still feel this is a nice, peaceful and quiet place to live. And then if you click again, we have also another whole section of additional comments. They can share anything. And the striking thing about the responses from North Logan is how many positive things are in that space. Typically in cities, when we have that, anything else you'd like to say about well-being, we get a lot of griping and whining. And in North Logan, we certainly get attention to some problems and issues without a doubt, but we also see some very positive comments, which is nice to see. And this is just a list of the various topics of things that come up in those additional comments. And we have shared those with Alan and with the mayor. And so they can perhaps peruse those and share as they wish with the city leaders. And then just the last slide, please. And so I just thank you for being a partner. We will take a break from surveying next year of 2023. We will come back to surveying in 2024 for a couple of reasons. Survey fatigue is very real. We need to give people a break. We ended up doing every year because that COVID came in and we had an opportunity to check on how things were doing, but we're going to pause. We also want a chance to really do a deeper dive with the data. I'm going to teach a class next semester called Building Community Environmental Resilience. And if you're still willing, we'd love to have a team of senior undergrads and grad students do a deeper dive with your data, meet with you and see how they can help over the course of the semester on any particular issues that you'd like to have a deeper dive in. And then also we have to do some fundraising because we've been doing this for 4 years on about $15,000 a year. The number of cities keeps growing and we need to raise a few more funds to actually continue this effort. So we'll be working with a variety of state and nonprofit entities to try to get some funding to support our helping you in the future if you're interested. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. Any questions? Well, before we let her go back?
I just have one question, Courtney. Can you remind me, when you administer the survey, how long is the turnaround time that we get the data back?
We did the survey this year in March and April, and we had the survey results to you, I think, by early August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So it's pretty fast, a couple of
is.
months.
Yeah, and I think we'd love to have that partnership with some of your graduate students or your seniors.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to consider approving city staff recommendations regarding the awarding of a bid for the installation of a secondary irrigation system for the North Logan City Cemetery. Ryan, are you going to speak to this? Okay.
All right, so we're looking to take secondary water from that canal just off of 2500 North and bringing it up 2500 North up into the park or the cemetery area and attaching to the current irrigation system and just getting off culinary up there. We took it to 3 different companies. We got one bid back at 101,000 from Valley Implement. They came back with a little bit of an undersized pump and they did not get us a filter, which coming off of secondary, we're definitely going to need that. And so we tried to get them to change it and they never really would respond to us. Circle B came back with exactly what we asked for at the price of 103, and Pumps USA quit returning phone calls and emails. So
Makes it a hard decision.
it does. But with the Circle B, we were seeing the numbers were right around Valley's. I mean, Valley with an extra filter and just going up that little bit of a pump probably would have brought them to about 110 is what we were looking at, comparing across. So the bid amount from Circle B to Valley was not a huge difference. But we are excited to finally get this off of culinary water and be able to irrigate it with secondary water.
Yeah,
up
this
there.
is great news.
Yeah, we're real excited about that. Have any questions for me?
Did any of these, maybe did Circle B tell you as soon as they could start if awarded?
So we're still working. I've got to get with Cash Highline, of course, and get that all approved through them. But we're good to go anytime with Circle B. Yep.
I assume the deadline's just next spring, right?
Yes, that's what we're looking to do is get into it next spring because we got to pour a cement pad in there.
Just as a side note, this will pay it off in 4 years.
Mhm.
Oh,
Um,
just with water
just
costs.
water costs.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll make the motion to approve the bid.
All right, motion by Craig,
Second.
second by Buzzy, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, Ryan. All right, let's move on to consider ratifying the North Park Police Agency Commission's approval of a $5,000 credit card limit for police travel and training. Yeah, do you want to speak to this?
So this item was presented to the police commission here a few weeks ago, and it came about as out of necessity. In the past, we've had instances where our secretary has ended up putting charges for the police training and travel on her personal card. And so this is an effort to get away from that situation, avoid sticky audits and things like that. So it's in correction for that.
Okay, yeah, this is just a recommendation from the police commission. Doesn't change the oversight. Those charges are still reviewed
Absolutely.
regularly.
Yep.
It's just a matter of not asking employees to put on their personal cards. So I would entertain that motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the increase in the credit card limit to 5,000.
All right, motion by Roger,
I'll second that.
second by Joni. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, finally, consider authorizing the hiring of a government affairs consultants to work with federal and state officials and agencies on funding options for North Logan City capital improvement projects. Alan, do you want to just go through that, or do you want me to?
I can go through it, or if you just want to give a really general overview, because tonight it's really just primarily the state option.
Yeah, so we've spoken with several people who would like to represent North Logan City with getting grant funding, allocations from the legislature. It's a really competitive market, but I think that there's some opportunity here based on what we've heard from multiple people. There is funding, particularly our main projects currently are sewer and water. Those are kind of at the forefront in terms of seeking funding. And so we're just looking for your approval, approval for entering into a contract for a state representative. Alan, did I leave anything else out?
No. that's
Okay,
essentially
yeah, any
everything else.
questions?
So I'm trying to remember, did we budget for that this year then? It's in the budget, or are we using?
We have money set aside for technical consulting in each of these separate different departments where we have capital improvement projects taking place. That's a very good question, Buzzy. I hadn't thought of that. Other than we do have those monies allocated, and they're usually for engineering or consulting. And this would be someone that's basically just consulting to go out and solicit grants, appropriations from the state legislature, or the grants through the associated agencies, the Department of Natural Resources, the Department of Environmental Quality, and the Division of Drinking Water is essentially the 2 or 3 that they would be looking at.
How long would this position be? Is this an ongoing or just?
It's a year
Yeah,
typically.
that's a good question too. Yeah, it's essentially a year. It goes through the state legislature session into next summer.
Okay, so during the session.
But then continues after that because they're like, particularly with grant funding, that's a year-round thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just reading through the financials on the agreement. So the monthly retainer right of 4,500. And so the anticipation is that we would pay that for at least a 12-month period at 4,500 a month. Is that
Which
right?
one are you looking at?
The second one in your document.
The second one is not the one that's up for approval. That
Oh,
one would
okay.
be one that would be the
That-
federal, and that's still in discussion
Okay,
right
all
now.
right. That's helpful.
Sorry, I put both of them in there because we're still working on the second one, but that would be for your consideration in the next meeting. I do need to add to what the mayor has just said. The mayor, through one of these consulting services, just as way of reference, they referenced a grant that we could apply for. the mayor filled out a grant in the last 2 weeks.
We jointly filled out a grant and
Uh-huh.
we really had very little notice. So we just scrambled to get it in.
And we are in dire need of sewer money. And the mayor was able to secure $1 million. That will help us make our actual payment that will be due this next year.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic news.
Yeah, that was just a really huge pressure relief from, we're in a pretty difficult situation with our sewer funding, and that funds a phase that has already begun with Logan City. So it's already paid off. just kind of speaking with people who are in the know about, it's impossible for us who don't do it as a full-time job to be aware of what those funding opportunities are. So it's kind of just the nature of the business to have to know someone, that is monitoring those things.
So that example is what we would intend for this agreement to do. Okay, that's all.
So I'm thinking we owe you a thank you. Big thank you.
Oh,
You do owe the mayor.
showing.
I was like, sounds like we've already got the person right here. So
There you go.
I'm just kidding.
I will fill out every application they send my way. I will make that vow to you, but no, we were ecstatic to hear that. So anyway, I don't want to pressure you guys too much, but $1 million, you guys. No, but I would entertain that motion if we're ready, if you guys don't have any more questions.
You do have compensation written in the first one. I don't want
Section
to,
5.
I don't want to say yes to something if it's still in a, like,
Is that the agreed?
No, the
That's-
first one is fine. The second one is the one that's still in flux. 'Cause
So
it's a
we're not going to approve that at this point because
oh,
it's
no,
not.
I'm taught, it's in the first one. It's section 5 in the first one. And I'm sorry, am I not, the Lincoln Hills Partners Consulting Agreement?
Yeah,
section
that's
5?
right.
Is that the compensation that we're agreeing on? Is that still in flux? I was a little
I think
confused.
that is partially
Yeah.
in flux right now.
Yeah, I mean, just,
think that's a
I think that's the
maximum.
maximum that we would pay, but we're hoping to negotiate that down.
No,
Okay.
I just wanted to be clear about what we were
Mhm.
doing there. I'm all for this position. Just wanted to make sure I understood.
So we're essentially approving a maximum of 60,000 per year for the services today. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm happy to take that motion. Yeah, I'm move that we authorize the hiring of government affairs consultant to the maximum allowed amount of 60,000 for 2023.
Okay, motion by Buzzy.
Second.
I heard second by Roger.
Rogers.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, let's move on to the work session items. First, discussion regarding lessons learned at the Utah League of Cities and Towns Annual Conference. Yeah, is Scott still around? Scott, do you want to spearhead that, or do we want to start with the council? Have you guys submitted stuff? Alan, do you know what we
They-
have?
They've all submitted items and everyone can kind of give us an update. There are probably about 100 lines here, so we could just pick probably 2 or 3. I could just get started, if that's okay with the other members. Not that mine are the most important by far. They're actually more important ones as we get down through here. I focus on areas that I really focus on in my day-to-day. And so each of the council members will have different focus points. And so that's perfect in looking through these. We actually kind of split up and attend different conferences when we go there, classes, sorry. Water conservation. In going there were 3 or 4 classes on water conservation and different methods and demonstration gardens. And going to that, we kind of know certain things. We know that North Logan leads the way in the state north of Jordan Valley Water Conservation District, flat out. I mean, there's no other city that even compares to us in our tiered rates and our water education, in our flip the strip and everything that we've done this past year, and not even close to the amount of savings that we did this last year. I mean, that's just how it is in the state. So basically north of the south end of the Salt Lake Valley, North Logan leads the way across the state. However, that doesn't mean we don't have areas to improve and we can't learn from other entities, which we've already learned from. And Jordan Valley has a fantastic option with Flip the Strip and other things that we've tried to start implementing. And one thing that we can probably do is reach out to Cynthia B. She's actually a USU graduate, and she works for Jordan Valley in their education department, and she provided training on the demonstration gardens and a few other classes while we were there. I think we'll invite her up to maybe just have some conversations with her and really fine tune and glean what they have done. More on the education program and the Flip the Strip programs, which are just been, they showed fantastic examples throughout that. Jumping down through here, some other things we went to, and they had a really good presentation on priority-based budgeting. What that is that's actually an exercise where councils get together with department heads in a city, and they put up on the wall highest priorities, and they do not put budgetary items next to it. They just put highest priorities, and they start going through and they looking at what they need to do in the next year, and then they start assigning dollar values to them, which kind of caters what you focus on in that following year. Obviously, but the budgets do drive what we end up doing. But we'll probably look at maybe an exercise, if that's okay with the city council and department heads, and look at something like that in the next few months as we start looking at budget, if that's
great.
okay with everyone. The quarterly meetings with state reps, I'll probably talk to the mayor and just see. We've developed a relationship with our state reps and senators over the past year or two, and working on soliciting funding and other things. But they did emphasize having quarterly meetings with your state reps at a minimum. The reason they say that and things that are obvious is this last year, a daycare bill was passed and an economic development incentives bill were passed, which are both extremely damaging to communities. One couldn't even stand on its own. It actually got nixed, the daycare bill. The economic development incentives plan really handcuffs a city like North Logan. And I don't think those were the intended consequences. And so it's more of just a discussion and dialogue at that point. To make
Is
sure.
there any indication that that one's going to be walked back at all?
I
No.
don't think so. The daycare bill probably will need to be. It's unenforceable in the way it was passed. I mean, that's the part that's really alarming at that point. It basically just said you can have as many kids in the basement as you want.
In violation of fire code.
Yeah, that doesn't jive with fire code or just general health, welfare, and safety laws throughout the state. So yeah, those are things that we need to work with the state reps and make sure they're up to date. And on the same token, they'll educate us and bring us up to date on things that they're working on. And it'll be mutually beneficial. I won't go over general plan RFP and kind of the Mill Creek Commons. Several other individuals are more up to date on those. I think there were fantastic things that came out of both of those. Scott can also update us, and the council members that attended those. Sorry, those are just the two I wanted to update, and then let's get to some more important updates from the other individuals who attended.
Okay, so Buzzy, you were there, right? No, Craig, were you? Roger, you weren't, right? Okay, so Joni.
You saw pictures. I think one of the things I was really glad I was able to see is Mill Creek. I have driven and kind of watched that as that area has been developing, and was really impressed with the way in which they worked with their residents, because it was very hands-on with them. So through the whole process, they were constantly getting feedback. And as I, spoken to different friends that live in that area, they just said they were so happy that they were able to have some voice in this. There was a lot of concern early on, about what this might look like. So I think once people saw the roller skating, ice skating rink developing and, the community using it, then people started getting more on board. So it was easier then to start having more developers that were taking a lot more, serious thought into getting involved in projects there. So from what I understand, there's 1,600 units and it's a very walkable area. They will have restaurants and shopping that's nearby. So I think we are moving in an area which, 30 years ago was all I was taught was you're going to have to start planning for walkable communities. So we're starting to see that need here in our smaller Utah cities. And it's smart because it does allow more open space for people, better livability. We have a younger generation now that does not care to really farm as much. And so I feel like it's nice to be able to offer amenities, but to still keep a really good sense of community feeling, that people feel involved in their community there, and there's activities that are safe and enjoyable for them. So I feel like Mill Creek did a great job. Cynthia B, I've loved her for years. She's done amazing things for Utah and been a great spokesperson for trying to help us with our water concerns. There is a gentleman named Daniel Clough, and he was at the League of Cities down in St. George. And I was really impressed by what he's doing. And he actually has quite a big group of influential people now getting behind him because his results are showing that you can do less watering with what he offers. I can't exactly, I don't know if you understand exactly what it is that's, I don't know if it's like fertilizer, but it's a certain type of fertilizer that just is healthier for the environment and requires less watering. So I would love to get him. I talked to him and he said he would definitely come up with Cynthia and they could do a team presentation for our community. But those two individuals with their background would be fantastic for us. And then my last thing I think that I was kind of think is kind of nice is they have a Get Healthy Award. Blanding actually won this year, but it was fun to see the Oklahoma mayor that came out and did a presentation and spoke to us and said, you know, his big push was to get his community healthy. And it could have been a really negative way in which he started it, but it turned out to be a very positive thing. And I'm really glad that somebody made it positive for him because I think his intent was for that. But it made their community more walkable. And they found that people started losing weight. They were more careful about where they were eating and what they were eating. And so that was kind of a great thing to have them bring him in.
We've had that award before, right? North
Yeah,
Logan?
we were one of the first in the state to get the Healthy Utah Award.
Can we get it again?
It's just ongoing. Once we get it, we just have to maintain certain standards. There's several
Oh,
criteria.
so they don't re-award it. It's just
No,
maintenance.
we were one of the first. I think Damon really pushed on that. He was one of the first ones.
Yeah, that'd be
on that.
nice to think about a
Um,
little more.
Yeah,
Well,
we had to
even-
push certain things. We had to create a few committees, a few things we had to add. We were already doing about 80% of them. So it was easy. I think we are still the only one in Cache Valley. That's a
really?
Healthy Utah.
We
Hmm.
could start
community.
that just within our own community. We don't even need them. We could just start pushing that for us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was really great.
Thank you, Joni. And
yeah.
thanks for the pictures you sent as well.
You're welcome.
I can't see you. Would the men please just clear? Just kidding.
Joni had more to say.
I do have one last person. Emily wasn't planning on it. I told her she could, but they brought in the fire chief that survived 9/11, who brought out a lot of his men. His story was really touching, and we actually had our own representative there. So it was great to see you there as well. And I think it would be great if we could share his story so people would know maybe about that too. It's pretty impressive. I've taken a lot of time, so we'll just move on to Emily.
Oh, thanks, Joni.
Would you pass these phones?
Oh, wow.
Scott Bennett.
Visual aids.
Oh, no, I did not make these. Sorry. Scott gave you one. I actually have them for the people who did not show up. Do you mind passing that one down? This is just from the caucus. Scott
I
Bennett
have one.
recommended that I get one for each of you, and that was really good to be in that caucus and hear from other rapid growth cities and kind of get where they're coming from. There was a lot of conversation about public discourse and how to get the best information. A lot of recommendation of town halls. I really would like to see some more surveys, but I want them to be maybe smaller than the well-being survey, which I think is really good for what it does. But I think it's hard to ask people to do that big of a survey a lot more than once a year. In my opinion, I think if you did a maybe smaller, quicker surveys, that would be an option. One of the better ones that I went to that was really interesting is I went to the one about the First Amendment, and they talked about prayer, they talked about parades, and they talked about public comments and a public forum specifically. And frankly, I think we're doing pretty good. The overall thing that they said there is either everybody can do it or nobody can do it. And they said, if somebody asked to say the opening prayer for this event, we just say yes. And maybe the only kind of limiting factor we could have is say, keep it around 30, we're under a minute or something like that. Time limits are our friend, and they're about the only thing we have to really stop discourse, specifically criticisms of us as their representatives. Those are definitely something we can really only limit with time. So that was really good to know. I really honestly feel like we only have one parade a year, and I mean, do we not, we allow everyone. I'm like, we don't really have anything. So it was really kind of nice to see that, quite frankly, we're doing most of the things already, but it was good to see that. And let me see, I'm trying to think what else.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
While you're
go
looking at the other items, just to bring up on that point, there was another class that talked about public hearings and conducting them. North Logan conducts them very well. In talking with other cities and how they do it, they can erupt into arguments and fights. And I think the way that North Logan conducts them is spot on with what the speaker was talking about, where people come up, they're only limited on time. They're not limited on what they can say, and anything else, it's basically they're directing their comments, not questions, in a general manner. They can limit on time, and what good councils do, they said, is no one responds throughout the public hearing, but the council takes notes. And then at the end, if they do want to have a discussion, the council does that after the meeting. After the public hearing. So you respond to some of the questions at that time, but you do not have a dialogue. There's no dialogue between the people in the room and the people that are the elected officials. It says that's key to having a good public hearing, getting that feedback. They also brought up, though, that the best way to get public feedback is for people to simply go to the staff throughout the week. Instead of coming in and sitting down with the city council, expecting a dialogue in a meeting, the meat of everything that happens is throughout the week. They say get in touch with the city recorder, get in touch with the city staff, ask questions, and you'll get your response and have dialogue, meaningful dialogue throughout that time. But yeah, just as a comment, I was surprised at how well North Logan really does conduct public hearings and public meetings.
Yeah, I think that's not necessarily natural, that public hearing format, to not have a dialogue, but I think it's what maintains that civility, is that, if it gets kind of intense, it's not, you have some space to wait and then respond. So
They also mentioned if we had, so here in like a city council format, we don't really have an open mic, but we have allowed people to come up and make a comment. So if we allow one person to do that, and I kind of feel like this is our policy right now. If we allow one person, we tend to allow anybody to come up and make a comment. So that's pretty good. The other class I went to that gave me something that I think we could use. I went to the social media strategies class. And one thing that she mentioned that, and she is from, oh gosh, was she from South Jordan?
West Jordan.
West Jordan, thank you. I'm not a native, so I get my Jordans confused. She mentioned that they would be happy to share any of the things that they had made if it was applicable to your city, as long as we give them a credit. So I thought that might be something we could potentially do. If we see somebody who has a really cool infographic about, I don't know, ranked choice voting that they've done, reaching out and saying, hey, could we use this in our stuff as well? Generally with the credit, they're happy to share. And so that was definitely something I thought we could utilize more. That way we're not, having to try to come up with some new way if somebody else has it better. So there's a lot of other things. I'm kind of blanking right now because I feel like other people have already mentioned them, but there's some good stuff.
okay.
I will add, she did mention, and this could be really fun for our gentleman in the back. Kaysville has some really amazing videos coming from their first responders. So could be fun to see what you guys could do. Yeah. No
Okay.
challenge, no challenge.
Okay, thank you guys. Thanks for representing us there, and to staff. Any other additions to that? Scott? Scott arm wrestle.
I'll make it quick. Dr. Flint presented at the convention as well on those social determinants of well-being, but her comments during that discussion was more geared towards general planning. And, how can we use these results in our general plan process? What goals and objectives do we put into our general plan based on what our, well-being may be. So that's an amazing resource we have right in our backyard. We can pull from that data, which if anybody knows, conducting surveys and primary data collection can be extremely expensive and the outcome isn't always, great. So it's good to have that resource. Additionally, we can talk a little bit more about Mill Creek Common. We plan to talk about that at Planning Commission tomorrow. So if anybody wants to stop by and learn a little bit more about that project, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But one thing we also learned was how to make growth less obnoxious was one of the sessions. And obviously everybody knows that, until we stop having kids, our communities are going to continue growing. So what do we do with that? If the growth is coming, how do we mitigate? It really is mitigating impact through good design and good planning. So those are some cool things we'll talk about at Planning Commission tomorrow.
Is that Mill Creek Commons? Is that the old Cottonwood Mall site?
I'm not sure if that is that site, but Mill Creek is interesting because they incorporated.
No, that's
just-
Holiday.
It's a Holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mill Creek incorporated just a couple of years back, and they were somewhat identityless, brandless, kind of a suburb with a new boundary drawn around it, on a map. And so one of their first things was to identify a downtown, a center, so to speak. And that was
It's
one of their first
Brickyard, if you know
objectives.
that, Buzzy.
Brickyard?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some really cool stuff going on for a city center and how they used some funding to get a catalyst started in that area to promote their downtown. So anyways.
Thank you, Scott.
Another quick, some of you went to is the cybersecurity. We actually started our cybersecurity with contracting out through a local company a little over 2 years ago. And there's been several cities hit by problems with their servers. And we've done pretty well. But they did present some things that we can work on as far as having an immutable backup. That's a non-changeable backup. We don't do that periodically yet. And so that's something we'll be looking at doing. Instead of incremental backups that get changes as you re-backup your data, an immutable backup is just, it's set for however long you keep it. There's no changes to it. And then also having some sort of protection through your VPN. One of the cities, they got a ransomware. Even though they have a VPN, even though they do their security backups, it was just one of those things that the ransomware thieves went in through a back door and planted something 3 days before Dell came out with the patch for it. It's just something for us to watch. And then also financial security. We started our fraud risk assessment a little over 2 years ago. So we've been ahead of the game, but there were a few things presented that we can do, such as anytime a vendor changes their address or we add a new vendor, that several people actually look at it before we do, so that someone doesn't send in an email saying, here's an invoice, here's a new address, that it just automatically goes there. And so they gave us some things to look at for additional oversight so that our city doesn't get, so that we catch things before we actually send out checks or change a vendor's address, that it's not really an actual change. So.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Anyone else?
Probably take this offline with you. Have we looked at cloud and get these servers off of premise here in the city offices yet?
We'll probably be looking at that with the new city offices and what we need to do.
We should chat.
But that's, we
Yeah.
definitely.
If only we
need
knew
to.
an expert.
You knew I'd get passionate about that one when Scott
Oh, yeah, that's
spoke.
great.
My eyes opened wide up. So
Okay.
reduce all that risk at this point.
Okay, all right. Thank you guys for going and for your updates. We'll move on to updates regarding North Logan's water capital improvement projects from Jordan.
Thank you. Just real quick, we'll touch on these quickly. October is finally starting to cool off. So we're excited about that. We had actually pretty high usage at the end of September into early October, setting a few records on those months. But we're really excited about Ryan's project with Ryan and Jeremy moving the cemetery into secondary water. It's a huge savings to our water department. We're excited about that. Well 5, we'll start to see site prep here in the end of this month and begin drilling that well in end of October into November through December and January. So you'll see a lot of work going on up there soon. And then USDA, we are still in anticipation that our project will be in review in early November. So hopefully next council, well, probably the second council in November, we'll have some updates on where we're at with USDA. But that's about it. Any questions? Concerns?
No, thanks for your work on this, Jordan.
You bet.
Any questions from anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are moving on to updates on the Civic Center. Alan, it's you.
I think in the next 1 to 2 meetings, we'll have some major updates. Right now, though, just this week, we will look at those bids that are coming back from the subcontractors for the city office. We'll go over those in detail and at length, including IT, which I am an expert, but apparently we probably do need a little bit more expertise in that regard. The other items that you see out here, we did order the decking at a very reduced cost. We have the pipe out here to pipe the canal. We're working on each of those projects. Those will start in the coming weeks. With that, we do need to collaborate with the police department, the library, make sure that everything stays up and running, operational, very quick access, and that they all have the utilities they need as we start tearing up things in the coming months. Working on that project. And then after that, we'll finalize the community center designs, working with several different entities, agencies.
We're getting there.
individuals.
That's the exciting part, is that it's happening.
At that point, we finalize our CIB loan. At that time, we get those bids based off the community center designs.
Okay. All right. Any questions on that? Okay, we'll move on to discussion regarding city council meeting dates in December.
All that is, I just wanted to put that on there just so the city council formally discusses this. At the beginning of the year, each year, the city council and the mayor decide when the meetings are going to be roughly. They can always be altered throughout the year, but for the following year. But we always anticipate that the first meeting in December is going to be canceled in lieu of the employee Christmas party, which is usually the first Wednesday of the month. But then it's up to the city council which meetings they have after that. We've traditionally done one meeting in December. And it always changes because the dates always line up, how close you are to Christmas. So the two options you have are the 14th and the 21st. I shouldn't just limit you that, or the 28th. But I would recommend either the 14th or the 21st. Potentially the 14th, you might have a better chance of having everyone here. It's just my opinion, but it's really up to you.
You said the 14th?
14th, usually earlier in the month, we have more people attend. There are more council members, the mayor, but if you all have plans to go skiing and everything else that week and miss the latter part of December.
What do you guys say? Like, so we just do one on the 14th. Does that work for everyone? Everyone can be there. Let's do that.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
Okay. We'll plan on that. Okay, and then we'll move on to reports from city officers, boards and committees. Let's start with fire.
First of all, I just wanted to thank those that were able to attend our groundbreaking. That was super. We had a great turnout and it was exciting, even though Alan got called out and had to come up and hand a shovel himself. But we appreciate his support and Mayor for being there. Just a quick update. I hope you all seen the quarterly report and you guys are enjoying that information that we're providing. I feel like Delane has done a fabulous job putting that together. She's my assistant and that information hopefully is helpful in a view of what we provide your community. Our wildland teams just came back from, I believe, their 4th deployment this summer. And that income that we get from also, provides that we use it for backfill and overtime and paying the guys that go out. But there's also additional equipment that gets provided. One, to sustain our program, to better prepare our staff, make them more prepared for any type of event that can happen here, as that is part of, one of the risks that we're associated with our bench area. We just completed, well, actually this week, we're doing live fire training again. We had a lot of valuable training that happened on the buildings before they were demoed, where the new station is going to be. And so there's a lot of good things happening. We do have some openings. Unfortunately, we weren't able to fill them exactly the way we wanted to the last 2 weeks, but we had some promising discussions today with a couple of potential employees. So we think we're on the right track. We'll be able to completely fill those hopefully in the next little bit. Any questions?
Keep us updated on that.
I will. Thank you.
So it has been a busy week for us as well as a police department. One of the first things we wanted to start off with is a reminder for the citizens. On October 29th, the police department is participating with the Drug Enforcement Administration for a drug take-back program. They've done this in the past, this last year. This will be at the Cache Valley Specialty Hospital from 10 o'clock a.m. until 2 p.m. And that's for unused or old prescription medication that needs to be disposed of. And with that, they are not accepting needles or over-the-counter common cold type medicine. So just the prescription type medications. Also this last week, we had our audit for the North Park Police Association. That went well, and we'll have the report on that in a little bit. We've also been able to identify the training benchmarks that we had initially discussed about for our new officers. We have a lot of young officers that we're working to try to move up that efficiency, that competency level fairly quick. And so we've identified what those 8 trainings are, and we can present that to our commission on the 3rd of November coming up. We, in trying to improve things also, one of the things that we were asked to do is to get our fingerprint station up and running again. With our animal control officer, we've got him hired and he's gone through that process and he's up and running. And so that is hopefully this next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have that up and running and available, and that'll be out for people to utilize as well. Other things, I guess, we do have our meeting with Alan coming up on the 27th for the nuisance calls and parking issues that are coming up with the snow season upon us. And then lastly, this newsletter from the chief's desk, I focused a lot on the ATV safety. The department has fielded a lot of calls in the last couple of weeks from people asking us to try to help curb that problem. The problem we're having is up on the bench areas. We have young riders who are flying down the streets, 3100 North in particular. As you come down, it's easy to get going fast. And when kids or dogs or balls jump out in the road or appear in the roadway, it's pretty hard for those riders to slow. And so I addressed some of those issues and asked for the parents of those riders to have a conversation with the families as well, saying we need to slow that down before a tragedy happens on that.
Is that in the city newsletter?
It
that's
is.
coming
So
out?
I sent that to Marie, so that should be coming out in the sticks a little bit here.
Can we, well, can I get a digital copy? We've got some active Facebook pages on the bench where those, I mean, I saw this firsthand a couple nights ago and I thought these poor kids were going to die.
Mhm.
There
Oh.
were 4 of them on a 4-wheeler and they took the corner and one of them it was going to be bad. So there's a lot of it right now. But maybe we can get a digital copy that I can post on there. I can wait.
Because it
Whatever you
won't
think is
probably come
best,
out
Maria.
till November.
So do you want the paper version first, then we can paper version to come out first and then? Yeah.
But you might want in the next couple of weeks, if it's not coming out to the 1st or 2nd, if there are issues that we need to address or the information that chief could get out even faster than that.
It's
Yeah.
the highest I've seen it. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's just the good
It
weather.
is crazy. And I
Yeah.
mean, I think it will decrease with the weather, but
Yeah. So
Okay.
one of the issues we've had with that is a timing issue. So a call is generated when somebody calls in, and by the time our officers are getting there, the riders are gone. And so it's not impossible, but it's fairly difficult for us to actually identify who that rider is and then have a conversation to try to educate that family. So it's more time, it's more involvement in trying to get these kids trained on some of those things. So we're trying to figure out how to handle that the best. Lastly, I guess for calls this week, we had 129 calls that we took, 56 traffic contacts that we made. And then we did have a few that were difficult to deal with. We had an unattended death that our officers dealt with involving an infant. That was a fairly big case there. So we've had a busy week.
and did everything go okay with the pumpkin walk?
It did. I think, as Alan mentioned, it was busier this year. One of the concerns that we've had and are having with that, I guess, is that access, the best way to facilitate that, to be efficient with the access up. This year, we had a lot of parties and people inviting people over. And so part of the issues are parking there, wanting to talk, to get access, to talk to our officers, to get access up. And so it presents a tricky situation trying to figure that out. But that considered though, as I went out and talked with the guys, it went smoothly as it could with the amount of traffic we had.
Okay, well, thank you.
Maybe one comment, when you guys have that parking enforcement meeting, I was talking to, with that big development by Foothill Wash there that Logan and North Logan goes into, there could be discussion. Some of the neighbors on that road, like the Deweys, they're saying is a very bad safety average because there's so many, they're breaking the ordinance rules with 4 in there. Now, obviously that's Logan, but they were talking, is there a way we can stripe in North Logan? That could be a really big enforcement area, because they say that you'll pull out and you can't even look left or right to pull out of that first lane there, because we're right ends on there. So it obviously enforcement is that first November hits. I think that would help in that area. And he just asked if I would bring that up. And I think that's a discussion, not to say right now, let's do this, but that lane particularly, the residents have been very patient with how many units are there. And then, I mean, it looks like, I think there's 30 to 35 cars I counted as you're driving up there, but we need to, as far as the North Logan portion, we could put a red line there. And I've even talked to the developer, says he's asked Logan City to put a red line there. He wants them to be in there, but they just keep pushing it, so.
For sure. Well, that's definitely the conversation we're going to have
Yeah.
and try to figure out how to help that.
Yeah.
So,
I had just one other question. I read an article, Bountiful is doing some deer herd management control measures. Maybe with our new animal control, maybe we can look at that again. I know the deer herd, it was down pretty reasonable and it's been growing.
okay. I know our guys, our officer did respond to a few of those this week.
Yeah, it's
so they're-
growing again quite a bit with
Yeah.
last few years.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Scott.
Okay, just a couple of things real quick. I don't know if we have any of our photo contest individuals here still, but when I first started, I saw that email come across for us to vote on those, and I saw that as a fantastic opportunity to have visioning for our community. When we see these photos come up, it's interesting to see what the vision is of our residents, and they take a picture of it. So as we look at the general plan and potentially updating the general plan, we might be reaching out to some of those individuals to see if we can credit some of those photos in our plan and utilize those to our advantage in our community visioning. In the next council meeting, we will likely have an easement vacation come before you to vacate or request to vacate a public utility easement up in it's about 3200 north and 1800 east. So we'll keep an eye open for that. And then we'll also be looking at our signage ordinance and maybe making some adjustments to be a little bit more business friendly, working with our economic development team. So that is on the horizon. You guys have any questions on those?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Other Scott, Jordan, Marie, Alan.
Sorry, Roger. Just going down through here, just one more thanks and kudos to all the different departments, everything from parks, to rec, to police. to all the volunteers who put that event together for Pumpkin Walk. I mean, to have 60,000 people come, it's usually an item of discussion at Utah League of Cities and Towns, just so everyone knows. They bring that up as an ultimate example of efficiency and what cities should be doing for sense of place. Most cities brag about an event where 5,000 to 10,000 people attend larger communities. I'm talking like a Logan level community. When we have 60,000 people coming to a small community, that's absolutely incredible. Jumping down through here, we had the community QPR training last night. Went really well attended. The Bear River Health Department put that together. Sorry, that's suicide prevention, question, persuade, refer is what the QPR stands for. The Harry Potter party, we already went over that. That's this Friday. Pumpkin toss, that's this Saturday, 11 a.m. at Elk Ridge Park. And then the car Halloween decorating, that's down at the high school. We will do a visit of business. We've talked about this with EP Systems on November 1st at 4 p.m. For the council. And then the Christmas party. I just want to bring up each of those items and just let you know. Ask if there's any other questions regarding those. If not.
I don't think so. Anything from the council? Okay. Anything else? I will just give you a quick update. I just was thinking, just so you guys know, I've kind of just generally told you guys the situation with the garbage interlocal agreement. We're probably about a week away from finalizing that. At that point, I will give you guys that final agreement, just so you guys know what we're committing to, but that has been thoroughly reviewed by our attorney Seth Tate, and I'm really pleased with where we are with it. It's been a feat. So, all right, anything else before we adjourn?
I will say one thing. At the League of Cities, I did have someone come up to me and they are creating something similar to our pumpkin walk because they loved it so much. And so they give out free pumpkins to their residents and they carve them and bring them back for display. And then they get an award for it. So kind of fun that started here.
Yeah. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Craig, second by Roger. I can just tell.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Still here.
Where did that happen?
What?
The